Hi, everyone. Hope you all having a good day. Trying to stay healthy and safe. My name is Rebecca Stuchetz, and I will be your host. Today, we have Alec Viss, who will be giving a live presentation on Mathcad Conversions. And as a reminder, if you have a question at any time during this webinar, feel free to leave it in the question or chat box, and we'll do our best to answer the questions at the end of the webinar. We are both part of the company Tech30, and before we begin, I'll give a little background on who Tech30 is and what we have to offer. We are primarily an engineering services company that help engineers like most of you solve any problems you may have associated with design, analysis, manufacturing, and product development. Next. Our company was established in 2002, and we currently have over 80 employees in our office. Our headquarters is located in Mission Viejo, California, but we're distributed all around the US, meeting the needs of our customers. Next. We also have a broad portfolio of 3D printing companies we represent. We focus on industrial use cases for 3D printing involving plastics and metals. We help our customers make additive manufacturing part of their finished product or use it for tooling, fixtures, and jigs. Next. Additionally, we are a PTC value-added reseller. We focus on these products from PTC. As you can see, Mathcad, Creo, Windchill, ThingWorx, and Vuforia. Next. Since this is a Mathcad webinar, let's talk briefly about the services Tech30 provides around Mathcad. Not only do we sell the software, but we also provide a unique value-added service to ensure that our customers make the most of their software purchase. So what is the value of Mathcad as a software? Well, for one, it's the automation or the reuse of calculations, the collaboration or sharing of those calculations and worksheets in an easily understood document, and the natural math, creating calculations as you would on paper that everyone can understand with no coding or development experience necessary. With that, I'm going to be turning this webinar over to Alec.
Today, we're going to talk about some conversions that you may or may not have been aware of in Mathcad. So these are conversions where to help you use your, I guess, to convert between like feet, inches, and fractions of inches to start. So this is the FIF function. So we're going to just jump into Mathcad and just to show that. So if I had a length of like 9 feet, 6 inches, and 1/4 inch, you don't necessarily need to do that conversion in your head. You can put it into quotes and then use the FIF function. And here I defined that length as, with the variable length. So I'm gonna put length into this one. You can see here that it outputs the value in meters. So just to talk about that a little bit more is, let's say if I change that variable to S, you can use FIF as a form of units as well. So if you had meters and you wanted to see what that would be in like units you use every day in the shop, let's say, then you can use the FIF function as a form of units to change that back. And then going further, just to talk about the FIF function a little bit more in terms of its syntax, you don't have to have quotes necessarily. You can just use commas. So it could be 9, 6, 1/4, and then that will give you the same result. You could also do it where by default, if you do 9, it will assume you're talking about feet. So that'll just show you that right there. And then if you do the quotes and you don't do anything, then it'll assume it's inches. So you have to put that apostrophe there if you still want it to be feet. So and then if I get rid of the apostrophe, then it'll be inches. So that's all I wanted to cover with the FIF function. Some other functions that you may not have been aware of is hours, minutes, seconds function. So if you rather, if you did an engineering calculation and you get your output in seconds, you could just use this function to get you a more natural form of that time, where you can have it hours, minutes, seconds, how you talk about it every day. So just go with that. So I had HHMMSS, which is a function. You could put your hours, minutes, seconds. So if I had 10 hours, 10 minutes, colon, 5 seconds, then you can output that and it'll give you a number of seconds that corresponds to. But you could also change it to minutes or just hours, how you would normally. So, and then let's say, similar to the previous one, if you just had a number of seconds, so like I had 3.661 times 10 to the 4th seconds, you can use HHMMSS to give you back what that would be in hours, minutes, seconds. And then similar to the syntax above, if you had, you don't have to use quotes and colons. You can do just commas. So you can do 10, 10, 05, and then that will output the same answer as before. Just to show that. Okay, and then that's the difference here, and then the first section is hours, the second one is minutes, the last one is seconds. So I made this 0, made this one 0, then be 5 seconds. Okay, so moving on to the next conversion is converting radians to degrees, minutes, seconds, and vice versa. So this one's a little different. This function's like DMS in all caps. So this function, instead of doing it in colons or quotes, you do it in a vector. So if you did 26 colon 17 and then 13 seconds, you would get that many radians. And then similarly to the one to the previous two, I mean, these functions have similar syntaxes, so it's easier to remember. So if I made this into a colon and then that equals that, you could use DMS to change it back into degrees, minutes, seconds, just like in the previous two. Now this function doesn't have an equivalent in terms of these other two where you could separate them with columns or commas. This one's only the column or the vector you would input. You wouldn't be able to do 26 comma 17 comma 13. So just to show that, 17 comma 13. Oh, I guess you can. Take that back. Yeah, so it's a similar syntax as the previous two. And then, so you could put it in as a vector or you could put it in as commas. Sorry about that. And then the last one I want to talk about was temperature. So with temperature, just to show you here, if you are working with adding and subtracting temperatures, if you were to add 20 degrees C plus 1 degree C, that's not equal to 294 degrees C or 294 Kelvin. One way to think of the way Mathcad does temperatures is by converting. Mathcad will convert everything to Kelvin first and then add those values back and then change that back to Celsius. So let's just show that here, copy, and then paste. So if I were to add 1 degree C here, and then show that, it would be Kelvin, that many Kelvin, or if I were to change this to, let's say, go to units here, change this to degrees C, it'd be 374 degrees C, which isn't really what we wanted, but just to give you an idea. And if you did want to add one just 1 degree to like a temperature, then you have to add a delta in front of it, and then that would change it to what the intent was. So that's a similar case with Fahrenheit as well. So if I were to change this to Fahrenheit, then I would have to change this one to Fahrenheit too, and let's do this. We would basically, you have to do the same thing with Fahrenheit to show that for you. But so that's just something to keep in mind when you're working with temperatures, is that they don't add intuitively as you would imagine. So you would have to make a little delta here to make that add for you. And so the next thing I want to talk about is converting your Mathcad 15 files to Mathcad Prime files. A lot of people still use Mathcad 15 because it has a lot more functionality and capabilities in some ways than Mathcad Prime. So just want to go through that. And a few notes to keep in mind is when you do this, you do require 2 Mathcad licenses. The reason for that is because Mathcad 15 will open up in the background, even though you won't see it open. And because it opens up in the background and you already have Mathcad Prime open, then that basically requires you to have 2 licenses. And at Tech 30, we'll provide that service for you because we have multiple licenses. So it's easier for us to do that than maybe for some of you guys, and doesn't warrant necessarily buying an additional license just to do these conversions sometimes. So, all right, so going into the software, I have a few Mathcad 15 files open. So these are the files, what they look like. Has some calculations, has some graphs, just to show you. And then some calculations are a lot more computationally intensive, like this one. So how do you change that? Well, basically what you're going to do is you're going to go to this input output tab, and then you're going to go XMCD MCD converter, and then you're going to go and add in just all your Mathcad files. So open it up, and then you can just do convert, and then just convert all your files that way. So, oh, that's unfortunate. To acquire a license from the internet. Sorry about this. Guess my license isn't working the way I thought it was. All right, so I'll fix that later. But basically, what you do is you basically enter into here. So basically, when you go into this tab here, click on XMCD, this window pops up on the right-hand side. And then you click on the file and you hit convert, and it'll show you a status. And then when you go through the status, it will show complete. And then when you hit complete, then it'll give you your Mathcad 15 file or Mathcad Prime file. And then when you do that, then sometimes what can happen is when you do that, if you have a lot of symbolics, then it will take a lot more time, first of all, but also depending on what symbolic solver you use, because Mathcad Prime uses a I guess, a new symbolic solver now, Mathcad Prime 6. So it would be a good idea to double check some of those computations to make sure that they correlate. And then also when you get the file, you may have to go into, just go to Mathcad Prime. You may have to go into this calculation tab and then hit calculate again for some of the graphs to show up. I don't know why it does it, but sometimes when you go through these files, then it doesn't allow you to go through all the time. 30. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, that's that is basically what I wanted to cover there with Mathcad 15 conversions, and I'll be willing to take questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alec. We actually have a few questions. The first one being, are there any shortcuts for adding the temperature unit?
Yeah, so 1 second. There's not really any shortcuts for adding temperature units. Typically for shortcuts with the temperature units, you would have to go into this, this math button, and then you have to hit units and then go into the display drop down here. There are some ways where you can do it, where you can go, if you had 10 and then you did like Alt 248 and let go, you can get the degree symbol. Then if you put it in quotes, like made quotes and then did Alt 248 and then did Control Shift U and then put C, then you can delete the quotes and then, yeah, it's kind of, and then put a number in front. You can be kind of a headache sometimes. That's one way you could do it with your keyboard, but I find it just be easier to go into this units thing and just click on it. So unfortunately, there isn't a nice and clean way to do that. So just to type out what I did, Alt 248 is the command to open up the degree symbol. So yeah. Yeah, so just sorry, let me see if I can get this to work. Oh, you know what? Oh, I forgot to set up the second license on my computer for this conversion. That's my bad. Okay. Well, anyways, is there any other questions?
Hi, yes. So there's another question, and it's, if the graphics don't show up after you calculate, what should you do?
Yeah. So, oh yeah, that was with the calculation tab. So if you hit calculate again, that should be reinitiate that computation. Okay, let me try this one more time. I think I've figured out the problem. So, okay, cool. Sorry, I had Mathcad 15 open, so I had to close it because I only have 2 licenses. Okay. Okay, so hopefully we can just show that here. All right, so let's go to, let's make this into list content, and then go to Mathcad Conversions, Mathcad Prime. Okay, so this is the Mathcad file that I converted with that had a lot of computations associated with it. So you can see here that it's marked with these arrows here, and that basically tells you like, oh, it changed from the source material and there was a computation done, you should kind of review it, kind of. It doesn't mean that necessarily it, what's the word? It doesn't mean it failed, and it doesn't mean it necessarily was altered. It just points out that it could be susceptible to change. So with that opens, we have a graph here, which was in the previous one. So let's go to what the previous one was, which was this one. There was this graph at the bottom, which isn't showing up in this Mathcad Prime. So what I would do is I would just go to calculate, hit calculate again, and then give it a few minutes to, or a few seconds, and then it'll show up again. So that's one way you can have the graphics show up again once that occurs. Okay. Yep.
All right, thank you. We have a few more questions coming in. The next one is, are there any cases where you cannot convert something?
Yeah, there's a few cases. It mostly comes down to some of the functionality isn't available in Mathcad Prime just yet. So if, for example, you are running, if you're using animations or you're using something along those lines, then that isn't going to get converted because they are not available in Mathcad Prime. So Mathcad, you can't convert it to Mathcad Prime because it itself can't do it. So you want to just be prudent and vigilant about that kind of stuff, making sure that you're not using something that's exclusive to Mathcad 15. So that would be good there. And then, yeah, this one seems to be working well. Okay, and then let's see. Yeah, there's could be other cases that I can't think of off the top of my head of what can't get converted with Mathcad 15 to Mathcad Prime, but usually it's cases with that where you can't convert it.
All right. We have another question that just came in. It says, when using HHMMSS, hours, minutes, seconds, do you have to use 2 digits for each, or can you use a single digit? So for example, they ask, do I have to use a 0 if I want to type in 5, like 05, or can they just enter 1 digit?
Oh, I don't think you do. Yeah, no, you don't. That's just a habit I have. Yeah, even when you use it here with the units, it won't actually include that 0 that I put for the 5. So you can do 1, or you could do 2, or just 0. Although you do need to have a placeholder here, so you would need a 0 there so that the software knows that there is 0 amount of hours, but yeah, you're not limited to 1 or 2 digits.
Okay, thank you. And then there's one more question, and it is there a help file that shows the proper nomenclature for FIF?
It's not a file, but if you go to resources, let's see, FIF. Usually you can go to resources and go into help, and then this will bring up the PTC user page, and then you can go to, it's in functions and miscellaneous functions. So FIF. So this would be the support page. If you could also get to it by just Googling FIF and then PTC support. There is a shortcut though, where you can go to it and then, I forget the shortcut, but there is a shortcut where you can just click on the function and then hit the shortcut and then go straight. It'll open up the support page for that function, which I can get to you after the webinar. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Alec. It looks like there are no more questions in the chat or question box. So while closing this webinar, I just want to say as a reminder, I highly encourage you all to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have previous Creo, Mathcad, and Windchill webinars and tutorials. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter as well to be updated on any upcoming events, webinars, and exclusive deals from PTC. With that being said, thank you all for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.